The Kerguelen Islands, remote and wild, are home to some of the world's most surprising invaders. Lying in the vast, tempestuous Southern Ocean, these subantarctic islands are a world unto themselves, a place of dramatic landscapes and unique, hardy life forms that have evolved in near total isolation for millennia. But this isolation has been breached. Over the last 2 centuries, human visitors, both transient and settled, have brought with them a host of stowaways and deliberate introductions, creatures great and small that were never meant to walk this land or swim these waters. Today, we're counting down the top 8 invasive species that have left their mark on this isolated ecosystem. We will journey through the windswept tussock grasslands and along the stark, volcanic shores to witness the profound and often devastating impact these newcomers have had. Each story is a chapter in a much larger narrative of ecological change, a testament to the fragility of isolated worlds when confronted with the pressures of an interconnected planet. From the largest herbivores to the smallest insects, the cast of characters is as varied as their effects are significant. Some were brought with good intentions. Others arrived by complete accident, but all have become permanent residents, reshaping the very fabric of Kerguelen's natural heritage. Some of these may surprise you. Join me as we explore the stories of these remarkable and sometimes notorious island inhabitants. Our countdown begins with a creature one might associate more with Arctic climes than the subantarctic, the reindeer. In 1955, a small herd of 10 reindeer was brought over from Swedish Lapland. The intention was a practical one, to establish a reliable source of fresh meat for the scientists and staff at the French research station. It seemed a sensible plan, a way to make life in this desolate outpost more sustainable. Little did they know, they were unleashing a powerful force of ecological change upon an island that had never known a large terrestrial herbivore. The reindeer found Kerguelen to be a paradise, free from their natural predators like wolves and bears, and with a seemingly endless buffet of lichens, mosses, and the unique Kerguelen cabbage, their population exploded. From just 10 individuals, their numbers swelled to thousands, spreading across the main island, Grande Terre. They are magnificent animals, to be sure, their silhouettes a striking, almost surreal sight against the stark Kerguelen skyline. Their adaptation to this new home has been a resounding success from a biological standpoint. But this success has come at a great cost to the native flora. The island's plant life evolved over millions of years without the pressure of constant grazing. Delicate moss beds, which took centuries to form, are trampled and consumed. The rich lichen carpets, a vital component of the ecosystem, are stripped bare, leaving behind exposed, vulnerable soil. The reindeer's selective grazing habits have profoundly altered the composition of the plant communities across vast swaths of the island. The most iconic victim is the Kerguelen cabbage, Pringlea antiscorbutica. This remarkable plant, rich in vitamin C, was a vital resource for sailors battling scurvy in the Age of Sail. It has no natural defenses against grazing animals because, for its entire evolutionary history, it never needed them. For the reindeer, it is a delicacy. Their relentless browsing has decimated populations of this unique species, pushing it back to inaccessible cliffs and small offshore islets where the reindeer cannot reach. The transformation is stark. Areas heavily grazed by reindeer appear shaved, the once lush vegetation reduced to a short, uniform turf. Next on our list is a far smaller, yet no less destructive, herbivore, the European rabbit. Introduced by sailors in 1874, these prolific breeders were also intended as a food source. It's a story repeated on countless islands around the globe, and on Kerguelen, the consequences have been predictably severe. Like the reindeer, the rabbits arrived in an ecosystem utterly unprepared for their particular brand of disruption. With no significant predators to keep their numbers in check, they multiplied at an astonishing rate. Their impact is a tale of consumption on a massive scale. Rabbits are voracious grazers, and their preferred food includes the young shoots of native grasses and herbaceous plants. Their incessant nibbling prevents the regeneration of many key species, fundamentally altering the botanical landscape. They are particularly fond of the Axina, a genus of perennial herbs that forms dense mats, helping to stabilize the soil. The rabbits target these plants relentlessly, leaving the ground exposed and vulnerable. This leads to one of their most significant impacts: soil erosion. Our 6th invader is another herbivore, but one with a more unusual origin story for this part of the world. This is the mouflon, a species of wild sheep, considered to be an ancestor of all modern domestic sheep breeds. Native to the mountains of Sardinia and Corsica, their presence in the subantarctic is entirely due to a private introduction. In 1957, a director of the research station decided to bring a pair, a male and a female, to the nearby Isle Haute, or High Island, to create a private hunting reserve. From this single breeding pair, a thriving population was born. Isle Haute provided a perfect, predator-free environment for the mouflon to flourish. For years, they remained confined to this one island in the Gulf du Morbihan, a sort of living experiment in island biogeography. They are remarkably agile animals, well-suited to the rocky and steep terrain of their new home, a landscape not entirely dissimilar to their native Mediterranean mountains. The story took a dramatic turn in 1977. A particularly severe winter froze the sea channel separating Isle Haute from the much larger main island, Grande Terre. This created a temporary ice bridge, and a group of mouflons, driven by instinct or curiosity, made the crossing. They had escaped their island prison. Number 5. The rat. We now move from the large and deliberate introductions to a smaller, more insidious invader, the rat, specifically the black rat, also known as the ship rat. Their arrival on Kerguelen was not planned. They were stowaways, unwanted passengers on the sealing and whaling ships that began visiting the islands in the 19th century. Finding a new land free of predators and full of opportunity, they established themselves and have become one of the most destructive pests in the archipelago. Rats are the ultimate generalists. They are omnivorous, adaptable, and incredibly intelligent. On Kerguelen, they have exploited nearly every available food source. They scavenge along the shoreline, feed on plants and seeds, and prey upon the native invertebrate populations. But their most devastating impact by far has been on the island's bird life. The birds of Kerguelen evolved for millions of years with no terrestrial mammalian predators, and as a result, many are ground nesters with no innate fear or defensive strategies against such a threat. For the rats, a seabird colony is a banquet. Number 4, the cat. Where there are rats, humans often introduce another animal in an attempt at control. And so we come to our 4th invader, the domestic cat. Cats were brought to Kerguelen in the 1950s, for the very purpose of controlling the mice and rats that had become a nuisance around the research station buildings. It's a classic case of using one introduced species to combat another, a strategy that almost always backfires, creating a new and often worse problem. The cats, of course, did not confine themselves to hunting rodents in the station. They soon established a feral population, spreading out into the surrounding wilderness. Kerguelen, with its abundant supply of rabbits and ground-nesting birds, was a hunter's paradise. The cats thrived, becoming larger and more robust than their domestic ancestors, perfectly adapted to the harsh, cold climate. They are now the island's top predator, a role for which no native animal was prepared. Their impact on the bird life has been nothing short of catastrophic. While they do prey on the introduced rabbits, which can be seen as a minor benefit, their diet is heavily supplemented with native birds. Number 3, the Shetland pony. Our next invader is perhaps the most surprising, and certainly one of the most charming. In the early 20th century, a small number of Shetland ponies were brought to the islands. Their story is intertwined with that of a Norwegian-born sealer, John Gronhovd, who attempted to establish a sheep farm on the islands. The ponies were brought in to serve as pack animals, to help manage the sheep and carry supplies across the difficult, trackless terrain. The sheep farming venture ultimately failed, but the ponies remained. Left to their own devices, this small herd not only survived, but adapted and thrived in the demanding Kerguelen environment. It is a remarkable testament to the hardiness of the Shetland breed. These small, sturdy animals, with their thick winter coats and placid temperament, proved to be perfectly equipped to handle the biting winds and sparse vegetation of their new home. Unlike the other large herbivores on our list, the ponies' direct ecological impact appears to be relatively minor. Their population has remained small and localized, never experiencing the kind of explosive growth seen in the reindeer. Number 2, the brown trout. We leave the land and head for the water to find our next invasive species. The rivers and lakes of Kerguelen were, for millions of years, devoid of fish. They were pristine, simple, aquatic ecosystems, home to a unique community of invertebrates that had evolved in the absence of vertebrate predators. This all changed in the 1950s and 60s, when brown trout, and later other salmonids, were deliberately introduced to create a recreational fishery for the research station's personnel. The introductions were a spectacular success from a fisherman's point of view. The trout found the cold, well-oxygenated waters of the Kerguelen rivers to be ideal. With no competition from other fish and a massive, untapped food source in the form of aquatic insects, their populations grew rapidly. Some individuals reach enormous sizes, becoming the stuff of angling legend. The clear streams now teem with these powerful, predatory fish. But for the native freshwater ecosystem, the arrival of the trout was an apocalypse. Number 1, the carabid beetle. At the top of our list, we find our smallest and perhaps most overlooked invader. It is not a large mammal or a predatory fish, but an insect, a species of ground beetle from the Carabidae family, Merizotus soledadinus. This beetle is native to the Falkland Islands, but it likely arrived on Kerguelen as an accidental stowaway, perhaps in soil or supplies brought by early human visitors. Its presence was first noted in the 1910s around the settlement of Port Couvreau. For decades, its presence was barely noticed, a tiny beetle in a vast landscape. But this creature is a highly effective predator and colonizer. Slowly but surely, it began to spread from its initial point of introduction. It is a generalist predator, feeding on other small invertebrates, their eggs, and their larvae. In its native Falklands, its population is kept in check by a complex community of competitors and predators. In Kerguelen, it found a world of naive prey. The beetle's target is the very foundation of Kerguelen's terrestrial ecosystem, the endemic invertebrate community. This includes unique species like the flightless fly Calicopteryx moselei, which has large, maggot-like larvae that are a key decomposer in the ecosystem. The larvae of this fly, and many other native insects, have no defense against the predatory carabid beetle. They are, quite simply, easy food. The spread of this beetle has been relentless. It has advanced across the Corbeil Peninsula at a steady pace, a slow-moving wave of invasion. Scientists have tracked its progress, and where the beetle arrives, the native invertebrate community changes drastically. The abundance of many endemic species plummets. The carabid beetle outcompetes and preys upon the local insects, fundamentally rewiring the intricate web of life in the soil and leaf litter. This may seem like a minor drama played out on a miniature scale, but the consequences are profound. The native invertebrates are crucial for processes like nutrient cycling and decomposition. They break down dead plant material, returning vital nutrients to the soil. By disrupting this community, the carabid beetle is altering the very health and functioning of the entire terrestrial ecosystem. From the great herds of reindeer reshaping the plains to the tiny beetle rewriting the rules of life in the soil, these 8 species have forever altered the Kerguelen Islands' unique ecosystem. Each one, whether introduced by accident or by design, has woven itself into the fabric of this remote world, creating a new hybrid environment, a Neo-Kerguelen. The island's original state, a product of millions of years of splendid isolation, can now only be glimpsed on a few outlying islands that have so far escaped the invaders. The stories we've shared today are a microcosm of a global issue. Islands everywhere are particularly vulnerable to the pressures of invasive species, which represent one of the greatest threats to biodiversity worldwide. The challenges on Kerguelen are immense. The vast, difficult terrain and the harsh climate make control or eradication efforts incredibly difficult and expensive. The ecological balance has been permanently shifted, and there are no easy answers. This raises a difficult but important question for all of us. What do you think should be done about invasive species in remote places like this? Should we intervene at great cost to try and restore the original ecosystem? Or should we accept this new reality and study how life adapts and evolves in response? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more wildlife stories from the most extraordinary corners of our planet.